Hello everyone, my name is Yoav Waxman and I'm a professor of economics at Coastal Carolina University. And in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to design and deliver a great presentation online. Let's begin. The first step, of course, is to prepare the presentation. And there are several steps to doing that. You want to outline all your topics and then research each one of them to make sure you have the material and the visual to support your points. Once you have done that, you want to create slides. You want those slides to be consistent, concise, and clear. And that is particularly important in an online presentation. If you have too much information per slide, it's going to be difficult for your audience to see them, especially if they're using a mobile device like a cell phone or an iPad. You can use PowerPoint, Prezi, Google Slide, or any other program to do your presentation. It's also important you practice your presentation using the same technology. So I typically use Zoom or Microsoft Teams, but you can also use Google Meet, Adobe Connect, or any other program to do your presentation. But whatever technology you use that technology to practice as well. If you're working as a team, you can practice with your team by presenting to one another and giving one another an honest, direct critique. If you're presenting alone, you can also record yourself, and you can do that in any of the programs we discussed, and then critique yourself. And if you're doing a class presentation specifically, you can take the criteria sheet the professor gave you and see if your opinion you meet those requirements. Once your presentation is prepared, you need to set it up. On the day of the presentation, it's very important that you open all your slides, documents, and site, and close all other programs. You want to be ready with your material. That way you don't have to look for it and open it during the presentation. And you also want to close any other programs, both for privacy and also to reduce the stress on the bandwidth and ensure your presentation goes smoothly. Another thing you want to do is you want to open any video that you're going to show and test it to make sure the sound is on, and also to skip over any commercial that often occur at the beginning of the video. It's very important during an online presentation people can see you well. So you want to use either diffuse or natural light. To demonstrate this, let me turn my camera back on, and now you can see me with a diffused light. If I had no light, my face would be pretty dark and be hard to see, especially on a small device where the screen is not bright. A direct light, on the other hand, can be very bright and create light parts on one side of your face and dark parts on the other side, which is why diffused light works better. If you don't have a diffused light at home, you can use a regular light and put a thin veil over it to make it diffuse. Finally, another solution is to move your computer around, as I'm doing right now, and face the window. Natural light tends to work quite well, even during a cloudy day like the one I have right now at home. Another thing you want to make sure is that once you log in, the host of the meeting, whether it be the professor or your boss, makes you the co-host, which is a term used in Zoom, or the presenter. That way you're able to share the screen. And if you can, practice sharing the screen to make sure that you're able to do it. It is also important to check your microphone and camera to make sure they're both working. And if you work in a team, make sure your teammates check their microphones and cameras as well. When you do an online presentation, you want to create online presence. In a classroom or meeting space, it's easy to create online presence by standing straight and making eye contact, but you can also create presence online. The first thing you want to make sure is that you're looking directly at the camera. That way you're connecting with the audience, and also you'll probably be less nervous than if you look at the faces of all the people in the presentation. It's also a great idea to smile. once in a while. You want to stand or sit up straight, and you want to make sure the picture is from the chest up. So if I turn my camera back again, you don't want to be too close to the camera. You certainly don't want to be a floating head, but you don't want to be too far. So a good place to be is right over here, where the camera is from your chest upwards, and you can see kind of the bust of the individual. Another great thing to practice is to speak slowly and repeat key points. If there's something important during the presentation, make sure to say it more than once, because it's harder for people to stay engaged in an online environment. If you're using any type of media in your presentation, which is always a great idea, here's some tips on how to use that media well. If you use PowerPoint presentation, which is a very common tool, make sure to use the normal view, which has all the slide on the side, as opposed to the presentation view. The problem with using the presentation view is it tends to choke your bandwidth and your presentation may freeze. Another tip is if you share videos, you want to share your computer sound. That way the audience can hear the sound directly from your computer and not from your speaker. It's also important to mute yourself while you're playing a video or a podcast. Otherwise, the audience is going to hear the audio feedback coming from your speakers, which will sound like an annoying buzz on their side. Another great tip is if you have a website, bear in mind that the font can be quite small for the people watching the presentation. So it's a good idea to press Ctrl+ or find another way to zoom into the part of the website that you are talking about. And the final tip is if you share any graph or any visuals, it's a good idea to use a pointer, and you can actually go to computer setting and change the pointer on your mouth, like the one I'm using right now, and that makes it easier for the audience to see. In Zoom and other applications, you can also annotate your slides by adding notes to them and underlying important things or circling what you want the audience to focus on. It's a very important online environment to keep your audience engaged, because they might be in a different room, they might have some background noise. So find creative ways to keep your audience engaged with the presentation. And some great way to do it is for a discussion, either at the beginning or the end of the presentation. You should always encourage the audience to turn their camera off during discussion, but certainly don't force them to do it. Chats, where you begin with a question and then you have the audience type down the answer in the chat box, which exists in most applications. Quick polls are also very effective, and there are different ways to do them. Applications like MS Teams and Zoom have polls that are built in that you can insert into your meeting, or you can just use emojis, like how people use a digital thumbs up to answer yes or no, or true or false to easy questions. And finally, you can use Google Documents or Google Forms or another type of program to create surveys and survey the student during a presentation. So that's all I had for how to design and deliver engaging presentation. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below and I'll be happy to contact with you. Also, I left a web address for an online course that you can take for free on how to teach and how to learn in an online environment.